Have you ever heard the saying, the only constant in life is change? Well, this basically means that everything in life is subject to change and transformation. And I believe that also applies to your creativity. But I want to know, when change is afloat, how do you evolve with it rather than fight against it? Hello and welcome. This is Creativity Uncovered, and I invite you to join me, Abi Gatling, on my journey to uncover how everyday people find inspiration, get inventive, and open their imagination. Basically, in this podcast, I try and find out how people find creative solutions and then how they use them at home, at work, at play, and everything in between. And my goal for this podcast is that by the end of it, you'll be armed with a whole suite of tried and tested ways to summon creativity the next time that you need it. Today, I'm very excited to be speaking with singer-songwriter turned author, Leigh Hardingham. Welcome.
Good morning.
Thanks for matching the energy there. Very
Sorry.
sing-songy. I love it. I'm keen to talk to you because as sort of a little insight into our, process for booking in the podcast, I always ask people about what's your philosophy on creativity. And I was super intrigued by your one. I don't know if you remember, but you said that your philosophy on creativity is always changing, creativity is always changing, it's always evolving, and you just try and keep looking forward and harness the moment. I thought that was lovely, and I think that might be a great place to start this conversation. Let's dive into that. How did you come up with that? What does that mean to you?
I'm glad you didn't just say straight away, what's your philosophy? Because I would have been stumped on it.
I wouldn't do that to
Um,
you.
Gosh, yeah, moving forward, I don't know. I suppose, I guess I started writing music at such a young age, and I constantly writing, constantly playing shows, and constantly, getting knocked back, getting rejection, getting, all those things that come with creativity and putting yourself out there in the for people to listen to or people to read. And I guess after time and getting older and if you want to keep doing that, you've got to be able to just keep moving forward. You got to just keep telling yourself to keep moving forward. And just because, someone didn't like your song or like what you're writing doesn't mean that it's not any good. You just got to be able to just train yourself to go, no, we just got to keep going forward with it.
That's it's such a hard thing to hear, isn't it? That, you're putting yourself out there creatively and
Mm.
being knocked back or not, maybe not not appreciated. Like
Yeah.
that's a hard skill to harness. Like, your music is so personal to people. How did you develop that skill? Because, it could be so easy just to go the first time someone said, they don't like your song. It could be so easy just to pack your bags and just kind of go.
Yeah, I think it's definitely taken me a long time, and even now, like still, if I'm writing a kid's book and you don't hear anything back from the publisher, you take it personally. You feel like, oh, it's not good enough or whatever. But then because I've been writing music for so long and now writing books, I guess it's just my brain's just trained itself to get past it and realize that the doing of the writing, like the actual sitting down and writing a song or writing something, that's the most important part. And that's the bit that I love doing. That's where I get a kick out of, I suppose. It's nice when other people like what you're doing, but that's the important bit, the actual creative bit. So I guess my brain's just over time. I guess I talk to myself in a way and just tell myself that no, that's just because that person doesn't like it, it doesn't matter. It's more about, if it's important to me and I love what I've done, then that's the main part, and then you just got to keep moving forward.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I guess there's like a certain level of self-talk that you have to kind of get into the practice of doing.
Sure. I think maybe also too, I've got good people around me that are able to help me with that.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know what
yeah.
I mean? Like it's a scary thing showing someone else your song or your story or whatever, because you straight away you're getting judged and criticized, and but I've got good people around me that help, that have over time, like my parents and my brothers and my friends and my partner, having them around me to show stuff and be trusting them and also being able to accept what they're saying. I think that helps as well.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Definitely having that trust that you've got these critical friends around you who will help guide you in the right direction as well.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So you've had an interesting journey yourself. So you started in music,
Mm,
and then you've transitioned into becoming an author, a writer of books.
mm.
Tell me, like, how did you start in music, and then when did that transition come across?
So, in my family, I've got four brothers. Sorry, I've got three brothers. There's four boys, three brothers, and basically, from the very, very young age, the guitars were just put in front of us. My dad's a muso and a beautiful guitar player, beautiful singer, and we all just give guitars. There were guitars everywhere. Dad was constantly singing and playing music. And I just sort of knew from a very young age that even though I hadn't learnt it yet, I knew that I was able to do it. And then as I sort of got into my teenage years, my dad tried to teach me quite a few times to play guitar when I was in primary school. And I learned a couple of chords, but just wasn't really happening. And then when I got into high school, around 12, 13, and found my own music, I just got obsessed with it and started just writing songs at 13, 14. They're all really, really silly, embarrassing songs that I hope no one ever hears. But it's the sort of, I'm really glad that I was able to write all those songs then, because you just keep building and building, building and learning things. And then I got into my 20s and started uni, and I started a band with my brother and two of my mates, two of my best mates. And yeah, from there we just started writing songs together and hanging out, and that was sort of the main gist of the band. And all of a sudden, we started getting played on the radio on several different stations, and then started playing shows and touring and playing the odd festival and that sort of thing. And then as we got older, we sort of, started having kids and houses and all that sort of thing. And it changed. The band still kept going, but it changed. And I moved from Melbourne to Sydney, and I met my mate Patrick Shervington, who is a really well-renowned Sydney artist. Him and I just clicked. We just became really good mates, and I was just so grateful to have him with there in my life when I moved up here. And he had illustrated quite a few kids' books, and he came along and watched my band play when my band came up and played in Sydney, and we did a few shows, showed him some of my songs, and he liked some of the lyrics in one of my songs, and then he just asked me if I'd like to collaborate on a kid's book. So that's how
Wow.
that sort of started. Um,
That
yeah, from
that's
there.
cool. Like, I mean, that is an evolution in itself, starting
Yeah.
from uh being very much influenced by family to pick up the music to then actually trying to find it in your own space and finding your own sound and then the various
Yes.
iterations of the band to to where it was today. Is there was there at some point where you thought that music was going to be your career, or were you always kind of thinking, like when you start this band, it was just going to be for your expression of music? Like, did you have like intentions for your music at that stage?
Yes, there were certainly moments where I guess when you're in your 20s and you get the lure of, you're playing shows in front of lots of people, you're hearing yourself on the radio, we're on record labels and all that sort of stuff. and we weren't making any money. Like we were living off Vegemite toast, and but we always had a job on the side, and we're trying to juggle both. And there were moments where you sort of think that, yeah, this is going to be what, there's nothing else. It's just quit the job. This is it. And the band never quite got to that level. We never quite had that huge commercial sort of moment, I suppose. It always was sort of a bit underground, and which I kind of like, but yeah, we always kept a job on the side. So that was a big risk. There were bands around us at the time that were doing that were just quitting the jobs and just going for it. But they're pretty big risks to take.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. You've got to kind of weigh up the risks
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah, I mean,
And
not many people making money in music unless you're in that top echelon of the industry. Everyone's got little jobs on the side.
yeah, and I can imagine that that somewhat takes the pressure and like they take would take the pressure off the music. I can imagine that if you go, I'm going to leave my job, I'm going to go fully into this band and making it successful.
Hmm.
That could change your feeling towards it because all of a sudden it's the pressure to f earn financially enough to
Yeah.
survive on.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I think sometimes when you take that risk and that jump, doesn't always work, but the people that generally get there, and I think you can say that about art, writing, acting, TV or acting or any kind of art. I think if you just take that leap and that jump and then just dedicate, eat, sleep, drink, whatever your art is, if it's good enough, then yeah, it'll work. Like I've got friends that have done that, and it's worked for them. But it's a big jump to take.
Yeah, and not quite the right one for you at that stage. Is that right?
Yeah, I don't know. I think we always the guys in the band were always it's nice to have not be 100% in it all the time. It can be also really unhealthy. And you got to have a bit of money to sort of live and keep going.
Yeah, yeah. So how did it, as your families and all that sort of stuff was growing and you said, getting the kids in the house and stuff, how did that
Mm.
change your view of the band and how the band operated?
It gave me a second wind. I don't know if that's necessary for the other my brother and Cam and Pat, the other two guys in my band. I don't know, but it definitely gave me a second wind, wanting to. So I think there's so many people that are in bands when they're younger, and then as they get older, there is a sense that you sort of age out of music.
Mm.
It's not like an artist can keep painting when they're in their 80s and 90s, I think. Sometimes that's when artists really hit their straps. But I think there's a bit of a perception that music is, if you're in your 20s, then that's that. It's changing. I think it's definitely changing. There are people changing it, but it's harder to do as you get older.
I guess the lifestyle of it is, if you're thinking about when gigs are and traveling and touring and all that sort of stuff, that
Mm.
doesn't really mesh too well with having a regular family life.
No, no, yeah, it's not. It's when you're on the road or you are touring all the time and playing lots of shows, it's a different world, and that's not conducive, I don't think, to to children. Yeah, it's I don't know. Some people can make it work, but I guess too now that I've gotten older, my I guess my head's a bit more clearer, and I'm able to sort of focus on my family and my kids first, and then music's to the side, writing's to the side, and I also do some environmental work, so I do that on the side as well. So it's nice to have bits and pieces and not be fully into the one thing. You can it can be a bit unhealthy, I think.
Yeah, so a bit of diversity. I'm interested in what you said before that having kids kind of gave you a second wind with your music. Talk to
Mm.
me about that.
I guess I don't know. I just felt this energy all of a sudden to really preserve or yeah, I guess preserve probably what I'd already done, like protect it and make sure that it kept going and just keep investing in it in a way. I don't know. That just feeling just came over me, just wanting to keep it there and make sure that it didn't just fade away into something that, oh, I used to do that when I was cool. You know, I wanted to keep going, and I guess there's also perhaps a sense of I'd love to be able to, like, when my kids get older, they can. My older daughter knows more about it, but my youngest is still in primary school and little, but yeah, just something for them, I guess, as well to see. And yeah, I suppose too the subjects of what I'm writing about has changed too as I'm getting older, which is nicer. So that's probably just all of a sudden I've got something new to write about.
Yeah,
That
fresh
makes sense. Yeah.
inspiration. I
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
think that's interesting. The word legacy was kind of popping into my brain when you were talking just then about,
Mm,
I guess a legacy, preserving what you have already created thus far, but then also
yeah.
kind of doing that handover to the next gen,
Mm,
like your parents did to you,
yeah.
so influential with your music when you were a kid.
Oh, for sure. So well, my dad, he used to play like 4 or 5 nights a week in his band. And I can remember being 5, 6 years old and I got to go and see him play. And then as we got older, all my brothers at some point have helped out as a member of the band, either playing an extra guitar or jumping on drums or playing the bass or something like that. And they're just lovely memories of seeing my dad do that, and going through all these old band photos from when he was younger in the '70s and stuff like that. I just loved it. So I guess there is, like, in a way, I guess dad was passing his thing on a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
I think that's lovely. That sort of happened in my family too, that just from a very young age that there was mu just music around, and it's so
Yeah.
nice to see my brothers and my father play,
Mm.
and it's just like something lovely, that connection between music and family.
It's amazing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think even I notice it with singing. If I sing with my brother, it's a really interesting sound. It's like we lock in really, really easily. And even now my youngest daughter is 8 and I've started singing with her and we naturally start harmonizing.
Oh,
It's really weird, yeah. And even with my dad, if my dad and I sing together, my dad's a really good singer, and he's so well practiced, and he's used to harmonizing. He's much better than me at it, but I find it quite easy to lock in with him.
yeah.
Yeah, it's strange.
Yeah, it is something. It's like a little innate thing that kind of clicks in.
Mm,
I don't know, I suppose maybe it's because you know them so well, and like
yeah,
it's like little micro readings of each other's expressions and stuff like that means that you can react without even thinking about it.
it must be, yeah, and probably something to do. You must have similar vocal cords. I don't know.
So that's
Yeah.
interesting. So then you moved to Sydney, and how did you feel when the idea of a kids book was suggested to you? Was that something that was on your radar at all, or was it completely left field?
Bit of both. When I was little, I can remember, cutting out a bunch of little bits of paper with scissors, stapling them all together, and then making like little drawings and writing stuff in there. And I remember writing this little book when I was about 5 or 6 years old, and all I remember was that it was a bandit that had this really cool black car. No
Very cute.
idea what the story was about, but such a boy thing to write and make up. But I remember doing that when I was really little. And then all through school, I loved any sort of creative writing. And I had a couple of really good teachers that in year 11 or year 12, I had this guy called Mr. Hook in year 11 who really encouraged my writing, could sort of see that there was a bit of poetry in it, that sort of thing. So that sort of was always there. I hadn't really ever really, really thought that I could ever have a book published. That still feels quite insane. But when Pat asked me if I'd like to collaborate, I was thrilled, and I'm yeah surprised that it did end up working out.
What were the lyrics that spoke to him, and did they actually make it into the book in the end?
No, that song. So I wrote this song for my older daughter when she was probably like in primary school, and I could just see her struggling a little bit with believing in herself and her self-worth a little bit, and I could see she's got this great creative mind, but she has a tendency to sort of believe that she's can't do it or something like that. So I wrote this song called Dream On, and it's just all about just backing yourself and just keep dreaming, keep believing, keep or that sort of thing. And I wrote that, and Pat really liked the lyrics in that song. And then we like the whole book that we wrote, Three Dancing Frogs, didn't really have anything to do with that side of it. But yeah, that's how it sort of that's what sparked it.
That's so cool. I mean,
Mm,
that's it. Like it's enough to, yeah, spark it, as you said, give you the idea and to start that journey. Uh,
yeah.
so what did that transition look like? Like what were the practical steps from going, hey, this is a cool idea to actually getting there? And was that difficult to do?
Yeah, it's from everyone that I've spoken to that is in the publishing world, my journey through it is, and the way I've sort of started it is completely different to how everyone else has done it. When I said, yeah, I'll definitely, I'm keen, he said, right, I'll send you some drawings and just see what pops into your mind. So he sent me, there's a picture of an owl, this really beautiful painting of an owl. There was a painting of like a bush rat from memory. And then the third one was these three frogs on the side of like a pond in amongst all the reeds. And something in my head said, oh, I can feel like there's something in just in this painting of these three frogs. I didn't know what it was, but I'm like, I connected to it somehow. And then I sort of sat down and nothing was coming to me. And then my youngest daughter, Estelle, she came over and just started interested in what I was doing. And I asked her to look at the painting and see what she could see. And straight away she just said, the frogs are dancing. I'm like,
Wow.
oh, okay. And then literally 20 minutes later, I had half the book written, and it was just it just sort of spilled out, I suppose, like it sometimes does with a song. I'll be sitting at with my guitar, sitting there for an hour and nothing comes out, and then all of a sudden something clicks, and then 20 minutes later you've got the verse and chorus down. It was the same sort of thing, and the way the book flows, to me it felt very much like I was just writing a song. But yeah, but for kids.
Wow, that's crazy. I mean, and again, that goes back to what we were talking about before about your kind of approach to creativity is like harnessing those moments. I
Yeah,
think that's really interesting to kind of take that as approach to look at the images and just kind of see what comes to you
yeah.
energetically. That's really curious to me.
Yeah, yeah, it was. It was definitely one of those moments that I had to trust the little spark or whatever that something got beamed in from outer space, and you just got to be able to recognize it and go with it.
Lean into it. Yeah.
Yeah, and grab it while it's there.
Yeah.
And especially if you're actually sitting down at your desk and you don't have 1,000 things that you got to do. You got to get the shopping, or got to go to work, or you got to take the kids to swimming lessons or whatever. Like as you get older, you don't get those many opportunities when you're actually in the process already. And when it hits, that spark hits, you got to just grab it and go with it.
How do you deal with that if you are like out and about and you just get struck by inspiration? How do you how do you deal with that?
That's a tricky one. I kind of learned to do that, to work with that when I was younger as well. When I was at university, I mean, anyone that's gone through university knows how friggin' full on it is and painful it is. So I had just that limited time to write songs. And so what I found myself doing was if I was walking to the tram stop or I'd have like 10, 15 minutes and somehow, I don't know, I just trained myself to, if an idea popped into my head, I was able to sort of write a bit of a song in my head as I walked. And I guess I trained myself over time to just sort of remember it a bit,
Oh wow.
and which was really hard, especially if you don't have a guitar handy or anything to just quickly work out the chords. These days, you got this little beauty, so you can just record it into your phone when something pops into your head.
Yeah.
Um, this that I think that's a pretty good way to do it. If something pops in your head and you're running off your feet, you don't have time. If you can just quickly write down or just speak into your phone and voice memo it, then that really helps. But yeah, I trained myself to do it when I was younger.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's it. It's important that yeah, when to be aware that these things can just come from anywhere, but you've got to have these strategies to be able to harness it because there's nothing
Yeah.
worse than going, oh, that was so good, but I can't remember it.
Absolutely. When I do with the kids' book, I've started going into primary schools and libraries and doing little talks and reading my book to the kids and singing some songs and stuff, which has been heaps of fun. But one of the things I tell them, the kids, is that moment before you fall asleep. I don't know if this happens to you, but quite often, just as I'm starting to get drowsy and drop off, often that's when a song or an idea comes into my head a lot.
Mm.
When I was younger, I used to get up in middle of the night, I'd be writing something down, or I'd be literally middle of the night, 2 a.m., and I'll get my guitar and I'll start working out the chords to whatever silly tune is playing through my head. A little bit harder when you've got kids around and everyone's got to get up early and all that sort of thing. It gets harder, but I always try to tell people that if you're falling asleep and that idea comes into your head, just quickly write it down because in the morning you're just going to forget it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if you're up and you're like, kids for breakfast, you get on the way to school, there's a thousand things. You don't have the luxury of slowly waking up, I'm assuming, when you're a parent.
No, no, absolutely not. You gotta, the last thing on your mind is writing that song that popped into your head last night.
Yeah, yeah. So it definitely seems like this kind of community collaboration seems to be like this thing that's kind of woven throughout your whole journey.
Mm.
Um, and you were actually introduced to me through one of our previous guests, Lauren Hackney, who,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So how has that come about? How did you find out about Lauren?
Lauren and I have been following each other on Instagram for I don't know how long, a little while. And she's just one of those people, like we're always like liking each other's posts and stuff. And I don't know, I think at the start of the year I've got a new manuscript for a new kids book and I'm sort of struggling to get it off the ground. And I just sort of thought, I just need to bounce off someone else that's doing the same thing that I'm doing and just open up some new doors or something like that. And so I reached out to her, reached out to another lady called Michelle Worthington, who's written quite a few kids' books. And just yeah, every now and then I think you just got to open up just reach out to other people that and just see if any other ideas can happen. So that's how I met Lauren, and yeah, we've had a couple of really good chats. She's awesome.
Yeah, she's great, and her book, the Lolly Shop, has gone gangbusters, it seems.
Yeah, it's so good.
Being made into a movie or a
Yeah,
show or something like that. That's very, very cool. And I guess that's the thing is like she is also someone who has just lent into this idea and just kind of seeing where it takes her and kind of evolving with
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But, similar to you, there is that struggle of kind of balancing it all. You do music, you do writing, you're also a dad with a family, jobs. Like, how do you actually how do you do it all and then still stay creatively motivated?
it's pretty hard. It's there's some weeks where I just yeah, like you just don't know how you're gonna find that time to sit down and write, or you're just itching to get back to the computer to write, that idea that you've had sitting there for the last couple of weeks, or um, yeah, there's always songs going through my head, so it's really hard to get them out when you don't have the time. But yeah, I get one thing I got out of university was managing my time, and I've become quite good at that. It is throwing kids into that sometimes doesn't work. It's you just got to go with whatever they've got going on. But that's a real struggle. That's probably the biggest struggle that I've got with any of my creative projects at the moment is the time to be able to put into it. It's getting to the point now where I've got all these lists of ideas that I've got that I want to work on and create and build. And it's almost getting to the point where like I'm not sure I'm going to be able to actually write all these things or make all this stuff in my lifetime. This list is getting too big.
Yeah, there's a whole nother problem, isn't it? Where you've got too much creative inspiration and not enough time.
Yeah, well, you can get jumbled too. If you've got too many things going, you get over. Like, I'll sit down. There'll be a day where I get, all right, I've got a day to write today, no interruptions, and then which one what do I go with? I've got so many different things that I want to try and work on, and I get jumbled, and that makes it pretty hard.
Yeah, I can imagine that's where having those critical friends around you could be helpful as well, where you kind of like, I just sometimes you just need like this external set of eyes to kind of go, that's the one to start with, then this one,
Yeah,
do you draw on your network to help you with that?
for sure. With the kids' books, Patrick Shervington, who illustrated the first book, he is definitely my go-to for that. I can send him like a draft of something, and he's good enough to say, "This is awesome. Keep working on that," or he's say, "Maybe just put this one on the shelf for the minute, and we'll work on this other one." He's brilliant at it, yeah, and I just trust him completely. So that's good. And then in the band, it's a bit like that with the band as well. If I bring songs to the band, generally we kind of feel it out and we know that this is going to be a cool song and we're all really into it. And other songs you bring in that the other, for whatever reason, the other guys just don't click with it or it's just not working. And that just seems to sort of get shelved.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's I mean, so I guess typical of this entire conversation is though that you've got to kind of be able to roll with the punches and know like you might be thinking that you're on this one direction, but get the feedback that it's not quite right. You've got to pivot quickly and be
Yeah.
able to keep that momentum and not let it halt you in your tracks.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's always handy to have like especially with the band if we're going into a writing cycle, I've always got more material than what we probably need. I've always sort of got enough songs to go if I can feel that the band aren't really feeling a particular song, I'll always be able to go, okay, I've got this other one. Do you want to have a go at this? And we can go with that. It's not so much with the kids'
Mm.
books, but I think you also got to be able to trust yourself though. Like there has been times where I've been writing a song and the guys haven't quite gelled with it, but I've felt deeply enough and strongly enough that no, this is going to be really good. I know it's going to be good. Let's just keep persisting with it. So yeah, there's a fine line between listening and collaborating, but also just really trusting that what you've got is good.
Yeah, yeah. All about the balance.
Yes.
Oh, well, thank you so much for sharing all of that with me, Leigh. I think it's been so interesting just to hear about, yeah, the change and the evolution and how you've approached that in your entire creative journey. And, the collaboration and leaning into the energy and the feeling of it. Oh, I think it really wonderful. I think a lot of
Yeah.
people will get a lot out of this episode today.
Thanks so much for having me, Abby. I've really enjoyed chatting to you.
And I want to thank everyone who's tuned in to Creativity Uncovered today. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend or give us a like on Apple or Spotify. And until next time, take care. If you've made it this far, a huge thank you for your support and tuning into today's episode. Creativity Uncovered has been lovingly recorded on the land of the Cubby Cubby people, and we pay our respect to elders past, present, and emerging. This podcast has been produced by my amazing team here at Crisp Communications, and the music you just heard was composed by James Gatling. If you liked this episode, please do share it around and help us on our mission to unlock more creativity in this world. You can also hit subscribe so you don't miss out on any new episode releases.